Not sure what stats you need to prioritize on your equipment. We're going to be going over what your secondary stats should look like for different characters in different game modes. Let's get into it. Alright guys, this is going to be kind of a quick video. I'm just going to go down the stats for each equipment and really go into what characters want what and try to see what can help you guys. So if we look, A right here is helmet, then chest, then weapon if you're Widow, and then it changes depending on the character, and D is your boots. So we're starting at A. We have the percentages on the side. I'll have the link down below if you want to look into them yourself. But right here, if we take a look, your helmet can roll crit damage, crit rate, defense pierce, and status effect accuracy. It's always going to give plus attack as your primary. These are secondary stats. Now, defense pierce is a really strong stat in the game right now. Defense pierce versus crit damage or crit rate is a very highly contested topic right now. So what I'm going to say is, in general, if you have breakpoints, 33% for crit rate, then 50, then 60, then 66, then 75. Crit damage, 120, 150, 180, 210, 250, 280, 300. Based off of those numbers, if you're in the 120 to 180 range for crit damage, then you want to work that up a little bit. So an ideal starting numbers is you're going to want 180 crit damage, about 50% crit rate, and 30 or 40% defense pierce. When you're at that point, you want to start building some defense pierce. So for stats you want to be maxing on your helmet, you want a bunch of defense pierce, but if you're getting a lot of crit damage from green cores, so you can get once you hit 210 of your crit damage, you're going to want to start getting crit rate on your helmet. It becomes a balancing act between your cores, your equipment, and your badges, Omega cards, so forth and so forth. But this is I'm just giving you general ideas of what numbers you want to be looking at. If you have a good defense pierce roll on your badges, if you have, so between badges, Omega cards, and cores, you can get crit rate, crit damage, and defense pierce. The one right here that you can't get through cores and such, you can get it on the slot 2 battle badge only, and that's status effect accuracy. Now, what does this mean? Status effect accuracy is for characters like Doctor Strange. Widow can use it pretty effectively. You don't want to focus it, but she does use it pretty well. Now, what do I mean? So when Widow goes to throw her blind grenade or her burning grenade or any of these effects, besides, well, even knockdown is considered, just not guard break. All of those are considered status effects. So if you have a bunch of knockdowns, if you have stuns, blinds, things like that, that's what status effect accuracy is here for. Across the board, for characters like Iron Man, Widow, Storm, things like that. Storm has almost every status effect in the game, besides stun and snare. So status effect accuracy could be good, but I don't recommend it for Storm, I recommend high crit rate, crit damage, and defense pierce. So it becomes a balancing act between the three stats. It gets a lot easier as we go. That was a topic. The boots is also a topic, but B and C is a lot easier. B is your chest. This one is pretty straightforward. Everyone kind of agrees. If you're doing PvP, player versus player, you want at least 2 rolls of accuracy on your chest. So 2 rolls of accuracy on your chest, plus a bunch of small numbers here and there, can get you to a moderate number. If you nano up, if you get 2 rolls on your chest and nano it up, you're looking at 40-ish%, and it scales a little bit, and you get some from squad rank, blah, blah, blah. You're looking at close to 160. Now, if you get a 3rd roll of accuracy on your chest, you can easily hit that 175 cap, because you're getting a little over 60 from the chest, and then you get a little odds and ends from squad rank and such, making you hit that without having to put anything towards accuracy, which is kind of what you want to be at. And with the remaining 2 rolls, you can flush out what you missed on A. You can go for some flat attack if your character that benefits highly from that. And what I mean by that is, let's take Widow for example, right? When she uses her ultimate Vanish, she gets a damage buff, and she automatically crits on the next hit. So if she already has high crit damage, she can ignore the crit rate for that hit, and then benefits from a higher attack on that hit. That's not something you should always go down towards, but that's an example of why you would go for attack versus crit rate, crit damage. I like to use chest to supplement what I'm missing already. Now, the last thing right here, guard damage, there are a couple characters that can benefit from this. I would say Spider-Man, Captain America, and Magic benefit from the guard damage stat. So on any of those 3 characters, a 3 accuracy, 2 guard damage can be looking really, really good on your chest. Now we're getting into, I call it the gun because I play a bunch of Widow. Different characters have different items in this slot. But this is one of your defensive stats. Crit damage decrease, defense, dodge, guard damage decrease, stats effect resistance. Now, just to finish with the chest piece, in PvE, you just do crit rate, crit damage, and attack. Ignore accuracy and guard damage against bosses. This game rewards killing them fast, not breaking their guard. If we get higher tier raids, that can change. You get certain things where back in beta, I would, against the Maestro boss, time his guard break right before he does a big hit, guard break him, stop the big hit, and we can dump damage on him. Right now, doesn't matter. Everything we can kind of auto, not a big deal. On to the 3rd C. I recommend in PvP, there's a balancing act right here, right? So as you go up in tiers, so dodge is really, really powerful. Dodge is really, really powerful until you start climbing the tiers. Dodge is at its best in Omega War, and that's because there's a lot of cross damage, and not everybody is powerful. But as you get to the mid tiers and start climbing up, people are having 160, 170 accuracy rate. They're having that dream chest I just told you about. So dodge rate becomes less and less effective if everybody's hitting you. So currently people have been putting more defense in. Now the conversation is defense versus critical damage decrease. Now, how does critical damage decrease even work, right? Because your cap of critical damage decrease is 100%. Does that mean you're taking 0 damage from a crit? The answer is no. If they have a 300% damage crit and you have a 100% crit damage decrease, they're dealing 200% damage to you. Obviously, they don't give us the numbers, but from hours and hours and months of testing, that is what it seems to accomplish. So their max is 300% crit damage, unless you're Widow, then it's 350% damage, and your max crit damage decrease is 100, meaning a Widow at 350 minus your 100, 250% damage. Because people are going to get defense pierce, that is worth more than just a flat defense. Once your crit damage decrease is maxed, though, defense is a good stat. Guard damage decrease is specifically good against the three characters we talked about before, Spider-Man, Captain America, and Magic, who have a bunch of highest rank guard damage abilities. Ideally, you would be killing them faster than that matters, and if you're on a character like Captain Marvel or Magic yourself, then the status effect resistance and guard damage decrease aren't as effective. Because during your ultimates, both of their ultimates, they are unaffected by those things. Onto your boots. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. And I think we've came down to two obvious stats here, right? There are three that are clearly above the rest. Cooldown, stamina, and ultimate. Now, depending on your character, right? So we're going to look at your rotation. You want to always be clicking a button. This game really rewards you if you're using abilities. So we'll take Widow for example. You can build your Widow in such a way that she's always using an ability. But if she runs out of stamina, can she be using the abilities? I like to get my stamina recovery from other sources, but if you're you run a really tight thing between cooldown and stamina, right? You want your cooldown super low, but if your cooldowns are low, your stamina usage is high. So you want to have low cooldowns while keeping your stamina recovery super high. A character that's kind of weird about that is Iron Man. Iron Man's best ability is on a 2 or 3 second cooldown. Naturally, you don't need any cooldown at all. He also has some cooldown refresh. But his stamina recovery, he needs a bunch. So, as well as Storm is very similar to that. She has some longer cooldowns, but she also has some higher stamina costs. So, you're going to want a bunch of stamina recovery. Depending on the character, you want 2 or 3 flip-flopped depending on what you're looking to maximize. Ultimate gauge recovery, specifically for Captain Marvel, Magic, and Widow, are some really strong characters for that. So it's really tough on these characters. What I recommend, an easy way of doing this, is use the Maestro card, which gives a huge chunk of ultimate skill gauge recovery. And then use that as your source of ultimate skill gauge recovery. Or you can do set 2, Team Up has a card that gives a chunk of cooldown. You can mix that with attack or crit damage from set 2 and have a nice little thing going right there. Which that crit damage can help you tidy up what you're doing in set A and B. Like I said, it's all kind of juggling between the stats. I've had people ask me to make this video, and this will just give you an idea of things we're looking at when we're trying to fix our builds up, right? Do I want crit rate? Well, do I have crit damage? If I crit you, do I have defense pierce so it actually matters? What I just said, right? The very last thing. I'm stacking cooldown. I want to press my abilities more. But do I have the stamina to actually press those abilities? That has been an issue for Widow in the past, where I have the perfect rotation where 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I could literally never stop pressing buttons. But stamina, I was about 6 to 10% away from having the right stamina, and you want to just gauge that, right? You can just put your character on auto when you're farming and just watch it. See what your stamina costs look like and try to adjust accordingly. There are characters like Magic who really Magic and Captain Marvel, they're both really similar. They both want ultimate recovery, they both want cooldown, but Magic is also kind of weird because she also really wants HP, which makes your boots really difficult. So picking the perfect boot is actually super hard and is super dependent on everything else with your build. Boots are probably the hardest item to get right. Let me know in the comments below if you think a different item is the hardest to get right. And until next time, guys, I hope this helps. See ya.